select the tune the body and pull it up, footings pull up, myself.
Right?
Well, I've been known to throw around the truth once in a while.
Okay.
0, ignition, liftoff.
Real talks. We got Malachi. We got
is.
Buzz.
That's it.
0,
So we're here
ignition,
at the atrium, the location.
liftoff.
It's our privilege today to share with you.
What's up? This is Malachi Malay. It's the Real Talks podcast with the co-host, Mr. Nick, aka Simpson, Buzz, whatever he calls himself. And we're here once again. Dude is nowhere to be seen, man. Nick! This Woo! What's wrong with you, man?
Woo! I'm coming, bud. I'm styling and profiling. Woo! 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 I'm gonna tell you right now. Hey, Malachi, that shea butter last week. Wow. Am I feeling good? I'm having a hard time keeping these alligators down over here. I'm jet flying. I can go all the way down there.
Okay, you got the Ric Flair t-shirt on.
That's mad respect right there.
Okay.
Hey, we got the mayor of St. Thomas on, and I gotta be dressed right?
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, I hear you, man. You're coming with it this time, man. Now, okay. Before the mayor comes on, right? We were talking, behind cameras about, what was the topic? The topic was
Delivery.
Okay.
Sometimes Buzz doesn't have the best delivery, or you're trying to coach me or help me. I didn't see your vision, but at the end of it,
Okay.
I got it.
What I was trying to say is that at the end of the day, the end goal has to be met. And the end goal, a lot of the times, is because of delivery. I hate when somebody has the greatest point of view, like the greatest information to give, but it's sidetracked by the way they delivered it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meaning to say that people will always concentrate on the way you said things opposed to what you said, right?
Yeah.
So normally I couldn't care less about delivery, but a lot of the times when I want to make a change in this world, the delivery comes into play,
Well, that's probably been my biggest problem over 46 years of my life, because sometimes you come into a room and you can be effective and you can lose someone real quick. And so Buzzy's trying to get polished, but in the big sense, there's a lot of points there.
Okay.
But yeah, we had a little chat on that because we got such a big guest, and it's a big deal for us. I got mad respect for Joe. I was actually talking to him before we come in here, and the referee over here, I'm pointing at Malachi.
I ain't no ref, man.
Yeah, he's an out ref, whatever. Hey, there's no games anyways. Let's get to our next point.
I was brand new to St. Thomas, right? So I had no clue who anybody is, period, right? So it's interesting. I met Joe when I was doing concerts, right? So it's interesting because Joe goes up and he's a stand-up comedian. He went on before me. He was opening up, right?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was a stand-up comedian opening up, right? So check this out now. So
Right on.
I perform and I meet this guy. It's like, yo, this dude is funny, man. You know what I mean? But I have no clue that he was, the former MP mayor now, right? So fast forward now, his significant other, Stephanie, she gives me a call and she's like, Malachi, could we work together, make a couple of records, right? So I'm doing the records with her, still not realizing who she is, still not realizing who he is. I just think, oh, this is the comedian guy. So only until when I'm running for mayor, right?
Yeah.
I hear Joe Preston. I'm hearing the name, right? All of a sudden I see his face. I was like, shoot, this is the same guy. This is the comedian guy, right? it's so interesting because a lot of times, people don't realize, individuals like Joe and other city council members, they got a complete outside, life. Meaning to say, not only did I meet him doing, concerts, I also was doing a lot of inner city work with him, right? Had no clue whatsoever, shape or form who he was and what he was doing. So I met him as a person. I met him as an individual that was actually doing so much inner city work for the city and outside of the city, that when I actually realized that he was running for mayor, you know, when I went,
And you had to run against him.
I had to run against him, but my brain said, you know what, this guy should win. This guy should win, because I knew him way before. I knew what he was doing. I knew he loved the city 10 times more than practically even at that time, even myself, right? And
Good for you.
and he ended up winning. You know, so forget about that story, right? And Mr. Joe Preston,
Come on in.
Mayor of St. Thomas.
All right.
None of that. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Well, we're in.
you remember those
I
concerts,
do.
right?
I do.
Okay.
I was doing stand-up for mental health.
Yes,
comedy.
you were. Yes, you were.
Because I was working with mental health, but I had actually done some comedy before they asked me to come work with them.
Yeah.
When I left being an MP, I didn't know what I was going to do next. So
Yeah.
I went to try to write a book. Everybody thinks they can write a book.
Okay.
And I wrote it all down, all my fun stuff from being an MP.
Uh-huh.
And at the end of the weekend, read it and said, this isn't a book.
Okay.
This is a comedy routine.
Interesting.
So
okay.
I went out and Stephanie got me a gig at a Yuck Yucks.
Okay.
Right? And I did it, figuring, okay, this will be the end of it.
Uh-huh.
But they laughed. I ask any comedian, as soon
And
as
they
the other
laugh.
people laugh, you're going to go back out there again and again till they quit laughing.
And you kept on going back.
So whenever I'm asked, I still do it. I did another bit for the CMHA last year at
Okay.
one of their things, and I'll go anytime. I'm shameless.
Beautiful. And just to even touch the topic about you were a former MP at that
Yes.
time, right? So did you step down as an MP?
I retired.
You retired.
After 11 and a half years, I said, somebody else should do this. People shouldn't do this forever. I'd
Okay.
met way too many people
Yeah.
who just couldn't figure out how to leave the place.
Okay.
And so I had preset about 10 years is what I would do as an MP. I won
Yeah.
4 elections. I've never lost an election, so I just keep going. But I retired figuring it was time. I should do nothing. My health
Yeah.
was not great at the time.
Yeah.
And so I did. I found about 15 minutes into retirement, this isn't going to work. I've got to
Okay.
do something for a living.
Yeah.
I have my businesses, and then I had met Stephanie, and we started the granola business
Yes.
together, and so we have that also.
Yes.
And
Where is the granola?
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I like to eat. We had a cake last week.
oh,
Okay.
that's good. We're hoarding it because the virus. We think it's the best
Oh.
thing to have around the house. Yeah. So,
Okay. That's amazing. And then you retired from being an MP, from
Right.
being politics.
right.
And what made you jump right back into the race?
About 500 or 600 people knocking on my door or phoning. Right?
Okay.
Look, we're having a municipal election, Joe. We know that you're now kind of becoming more active. I've
Yeah.
gone back and started
Yeah.
doing some community work.
Yeah.
And they said, why don't you run for mayor?
Yeah.
And I really hadn't thought that I would. I went and talked to some of the previous councillors and some of the people who are now on council and said, hey, if I thought to do this, what do you think? Hey, it'll be a great team. Let's do it. I've got like the world's greatest city council. 2
Yeah.
former mayors on there. Don't think I
No
don't
doubt.
get advice.
Absolutely.
I mean, I get a pile
Absolutely.
of advice. Some of it I even want.
You guys got the all-star team right now.
Oh, no,
man.
it's really good. It's as good as it can be for the city of St. Thomas.
And I told you this. I remember when we're in the back room somewhere. I told you this when we're running for mayor. That you know what? If I realized, because you didn't put in your
Not till
name
late. I went late, yeah.
Until very, very late.
Till the 500th person called me and said,
Yeah,
do it.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I told you you're wasting my time, man.
I
Because
know, I
told you you're
apologize
wasting
to
my
you.
time, man. Because if I knew you were putting your name in there, because I knew you before, and I was like, you know what? I put my name in there because I didn't think there was anybody in there that was gonna do what the city wanted, right?
Right.
But when you jumped in there, it was totally at the end. I was like, you should have just told me
thought
before.
there-
I never would have done it.
Yeah, I thought there needed to be a business person
Yes,
in there. We had a
absolutely.
lot of people with great talent, but none of them had run businesses. And our
Absolutely.
community needs to be looked at at least with some sort of business sense.
I agree.
And it works.
I agree. Okay.
So he said a business owner. So is that an opening for the next mayoral race for me?
Well, sure.
Huh? Buzz for mayor?
Well, I've seen your shirt.
It looks good. No,
Okay.
listen.
I've got no shea butter on, just so you know.
Hey, Brad Jones.
Yes.
Okay. Brad Jones goes around picking up needles, and a lot of people that support him always wondered, How come the city doesn't pay him?
Well, Brad and I started picking up needles together. It was a group of us that said, there's needles in our downtown, we need to clean them up. And
Yeah.
we all met at the library one day, a bunch of volunteers, and I could give you a bunch of other names. And so we went out and learned how to pick up needles. The safety of how to do it, make our community a little better.
Yeah.
Brad and I became very good friends.
Okay.
But he really liked it.
Yeah.
And so instead of all of us getting together every Tuesday morning, every so often, Brad would just say, I got it. I know where the 2 or 3 are, or they can call me and we'll go.
Okay.
And so Brad went and started doing it.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
I still help Brad out every so often, bought him a tire for his bike, helped him out with a little cash. But the city employees were doing it before we put the volunteer team on it.
Oh, so you do have a volunteer team.
Well, that was what we did when we
Okay.
trained with Brad and I, and,
Okay,
and
okay.
Letitia, and
Okay.
Tim Hedden, and,
Yeah.
and even Joan Reimel, the current councillor. We all went out and learned how to do it. Went out every Tuesday morning
Yes.
in the dark and started out, and we're doing it. It kind of morphed into Jonesy doing it himself, right? Because he would answer the call, and then he said, "I'm going to start telling people how to get a hold of me."
Okay.
Because they were trying to call through the city, and it was taking a while sometimes for us to get to a pretty urgent pickup of news.
Correct.
And so he started to do it and loved doing it. And he still does. He likes doing the job. He takes some heat, takes some bad news, takes
Okay.
some good news. I'd like to have Brad be able to go to some of the businesses and say, would you pay me a little bit if I come to pick up needles? Right? I think that would be a great way to do it. Right? He could turn it into a little bit of pocket change in order to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And we love him doing it. And
Okay.
we met just last week again. He gave me one of his T-shirts.
Okay.
Yeah. So I didn't
Okay.
wear it tonight.
Okay.
No,
Oh, I didn't want to show up your shirt.
And earlier this week too, we put out questions for the fans to
Great.
ask you, right?
Perfect.
And we got
And there
Laura.
was none, so I have to go home. Oh, no.
You ain't getting off that easy.
This is the longest podcast you're ever going to see.
You know. Now Laura, she runs the art council.
Canadian, the St. Thomas Art Center, yes.
Art Center.
Yes.
And it was a very long text that she wrote, but at the end of the day, she was wondering why don't pretty much the art council get funding?
Well, they can from a whole lot of organizations. It
Okay.
doesn't necessarily have to be from the city.
Okay.
In my 2 budgets as the mayor, we've given them over $50,000 each of those years.
Okay.
Right? But the question that came to council this year was, should we look at our grant process? The last 2 years, 4 big organizations all got over $50,000 and nobody else got anything.
Okay.
So we started to look at the grant process, and I'm not saying that the Art Center doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
I mean, it truly does. But if you
Correct.
start to look at the different priorities in our community, from housing and transit and all the other stuff we have to pay for. When I started doing the research, we've put together a little bit of a team of council members to look at what should we do with grants. And I won't get to make that decision by myself. That's going to come from all of the people at council. We said, let's see if we can't find a better way to do this, where the art center gets what it needs still, the cemetery, the senior center, and the teen center. Those are the big 4.
Yeah.
But how can we also look at, should the, and I was quoted pretty actively in the last couple of weeks, because
Yeah.
I said, no one came up to me and said, when you get to be mayor, go ahead and give away all my money. Right?
Yeah.
We're not, I
Yeah.
said we're not the United Way. We should invest in the things that are good for the city and the city needs, whether it's shelters or affordable housing or a lot of things. We currently give away more than $1 million in grants in this community
Yeah.
in a given year.
Wow.
Yeah.
$1 million of the somebody had to earn that money, then they had to pay their taxes, and it all came to us. And then we decided, over time, far more than my 2 years, we decided we would share some of that with people. We didn't go back and ask that taxpayer, hey, did you want us to share this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we think there's a number that have come to us and said, hey, I'm good in my community. I'm good for it. Let me help my community, and you do what only the city can do. Transit, housing, those types of things.
Yeah.
And let us work on the other. So we're really looking at it. Look, there's no final answer yet. We know there's some great organizations in our community that need funding. And there's more than that. So if all of a sudden somebody whispers in my ear the right answer, I'm going to go with it. But right now, we're still trying to look at it.
I'm real close to whispering.
See?
I'm right here.
Have
Over
you ever
here.
heard him whisper? No.
So
No, never.
I guess to sum it up, you're telling whoever believes they need the money, they gotta prove.
Well, and keep doing it. Honestly, whether it's that group or another group, they are fundraising out there anyway. They are also have other ways to get to earn some money.
Correct.
So keep doing that. That's a given. You have to prove that your organization is more worthwhile than just city funding.
Correct.
Right?
I
Because
agree.
there are things that only the city can fund, and we need to do those too. And in order to pay the bills, we got to do it.
Okay, that's like a million questions.
I
right
know.
here.
I'm sorry. I'm
Can you
listening.
read that?
I know.
I'll go
But see
read
the
it.
novels that are coming up there.
Yep.
Okay, so now Nick.
Yeah.
Okay, as you asked Joe this particular question, I know you went to the health unit to the
Oh,
health.
let's do that one.
So
Senate
a
today.
prelude
Go ahead.
at the end of Hiawatha, an empty building that's on near the railway.
And they found
tracks.
stashes of stuff.
Yeah, and so you see the picture when you go on with Jonesy and other organizations. Thank you very much for your
What you
efforts.
do, yeah.
Thank you. I mean that. So when you see these pictures that they put on there, you get kind of oblivious. And you kind of just scroll through Facebook. I actually called Jonesy. I said, "What's the address?" Well, there is no address. It's just at the end of Hiawatha, by the tracks. So I go there, and then I couldn't find it because I thought it was a house. It's not even a house. It's part of the rail system. So I grab Jonesy. We go there. Long story short, I walk in there. My floor hits the ground. Everything in there, 70% of it, it's all brand new needles. The syringes, the little tin cups that they cook their
The
stuff,
spoon.
crack pipes, wipes, the yellow bins for sharps are chicken strapped up on the it's been burned. There's been a fire there. So long story short, I pick it all up. I pick certain things up, and then I did this on my own. I told you both, two guys. I go to the health unit today. I walk in, and great people down there, by the way. Great health unit. Beautiful. Friendly girl at the desk. Not 10 minutes later, I'm in a room. I said, I need something with needle exchange. So I talked to the girl. I just told her, we do a podcast, have the mayor on. I just want to know, and I laid out all the equipment that they give you.
So harm reduction is exactly that, and I get what they're saying, but I've shared with my people at the health unit, people I've talked to about the harm reduction. Way to go, fantastic, good idea. But you can't trade one harm for the other.
Correct.
And the other harm is now there's needles on the ground that kids can find.
Correct.
Well, I got to tell you, I kind of dislike that harm more than I like the other harm. If you can vote against them, I know which one I like worse,
Okay,
right?
so I guess
So
that
why don't we come up with what I've asked for is this is a good idea, but come up with a total plan, not just a distribution plan,
Yes.
but a collection plan also. And it did start off with the health unit teaching us proper needle handling and how to pick it up. They were a big part in our first instruction. And then it kind of, okay, now we've got needle receptacles around town, okay. Well, no, it's not enough. We need to account for, and I don't want to one-for-one exchange. It doesn't work that way. We're talking about people who are using intravenous drugs, and the biggest and best place to get them is out at the health unit. Did you drive your car or walk?
I drove my car.
Right.
Not the Lincoln.
Okay, but most of the people, it's a long.
It's a long
You're
walk.
not walking out to the health unit.
Yeah.
So somebody's going and getting enough for all, right? And so it's a harder. So I'm asking as the mayor, can we have better disposal?
Yes.
Can we have more disposal?
Yes.
Even in my restaurant, there's disposal units in each of the bathrooms because it's the right thing to do for both my staff and for the citizens of the community. We need to, as a health unit, try and capture the vast majority of what's distributed and get it back safely because it's harm reduction out and harm reduction in. And so I agree with you.
Okay, and I get that. And there's 2 points that you made.
Okay.
My grandfather used to have, what's the patches you put on it for the high-powered fentanyl patches?
Fentanyl, yeah.
If he didn't put the fentanyl patch back on his sheet, he didn't get his next script.
That's right.
What's wrong with the needles, Joe?
Well, they're not a script. I mean, that's really what it is.
But my grandpa didn't take his fentanyl patch and he could throw it down the toilet or in the garbage. Didn't affect no lives.
my point here is that the harm reduction the circle can be closed by better collection and by better disposal.
So
I'm okay with the. I've got a real problem with harm reduction sites, and maybe we'll.
Oh,
talk a bit
totally
about
agree.
that too. Okay.
me and Joe are on the same page on that one.
Okay.
And a lot of viewers, including Sarah, actually wanted to know, what do you think about safe and
Well,
self-consumption
I
sites?
believe there should be. I'm not going to. It's
There
not
should
a
be?
perfect. I think that if we're working on harm reduction, we should also be working on addiction control, addiction removal. That type of piece too. Our community has no.
That's like having a drunk driving lane down the Wellington Road. If we have a safe
easy to
injection
say
site,
that,
but
right?
it is true. You need a doctor that's $250,000 minimum a year with a nurse for a safe injection site. It does for
If it removes one addict, if we can make it part of the plan to help addiction prevention in our community, it will work. But we can't just say, here's a safe place to go do drugs. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, here's a safe way to get off drugs.
Yes.
Then let's do it.
Okay, yeah, detox rehab.
So having
Right.
some type of
Detox rehab.
If it's not added to it, you don't get me saying
If
I want
rehab
it.
is not
It's
added
gotta
to
have
the-
both.
I think
Okay.
safe injection sites is you're enabling. Before marijuana was legal, if I sat right in front of the cop station or
Right.
said I want a free or a safe smoking station, it would never happen. But the needle thing is, it's becoming like second nature.
I get that it's become way too big. That's what I'm
Yeah,
arguing
okay,
against.
yeah.
I mean, I'm with you on the it's become way too big. We need to, if we're going to hand out this many, what's the plan to ensure we get the vast majority of them back?
So someone at the health unit should go around being paid, collecting or working with the nonprofit or
Yes.
the other organizations
And it did
through
start
the
that
health
way.
unit.
Yep.
Because again, I went in that facility and that's not couple $100,000. That's
Yeah.
a big investment. It's beautiful.
Right.
Money well spent.
Now, we do a lot of maternal health out there,
Yes.
vaccinations, senior dental.
And I get
there's
that.
a lot of things. That's what the health unit does. But you're right. We need to close that gap.
Yeah.
We hand them out. We get most of them back. I want all of them back. I want a better way of us tracking, of us. It's impossible to track, but
Yeah.
us seeing the bulk of those needles come back and not be in a playground, not be in a park.
Okay.
So, one last thing. Here's what I don't get. Since Jonesy made that area where I went to the thousands or whatever people he has friends,
yeah.
I went back 2 days later. They went and cleaned up the rest of them. To me, that's a hot spot, and why can't we patrol that to make it not a hot spot? Make the property owner lock that up, contain it, right?
Yep.
And then post signs, and then if people want to go there, because someone's making that spot where I went a safe, in their words, a safe injection site.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So agreed, and we.
Let's police it, because I don't want the cops to clean up. I want the cops to clean up bad doings.
Well, that's another piece. Until we started doing some of the needle pickup, all the calls went into the police. I found a needle in the park. Would you
Yeah.
come pick it up?
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather my police route actually.
No, I don't want them to do that. No, you're right.
So
Yeah.
this way is better, but you're right. We have a property standards group that really does. We just got to know it's complaint driven. You know, Brad shares that information. We share that information, and we can try and catch it at a point where it's not locked up, and the property owner should be responsible for it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's totally true.
And we got Ray here has an interesting question, because
Okay.
what he's saying is that, okay, you got a couple organizations saying we don't have a drug issue in St. Thomas.
Yeah.
You got other organization says we got a serious drug problem.
Right.
Like, I don't know if you know the statistics, but Ray's asking, do you have any clue of how bad the drug issues are in St. Thomas?
Look, I could probably talk more about it from the police, but anecdotally, of course, we see it. We have homeless people who are addicted. We have homeless people who have mental health issues. We have people who aren't homeless who have both of those, chronic problems. I don't think we need to know the number. We need to know it needs to be less. All right,
Yeah.
so let's, but we're a community now of 42,000 people. The fact we don't have an addiction facility in town, and we really don't have that much of a mental health facility in town either. Our hospital does some very good work, the ACT team does some good work, and CMHA does their best at trying to work with that too. But we need to coordinate this a little bit. We're doing. There's people working on every one of those things we just said.
We need a detox.
Sometimes there's 3 or 4 groups working on each one of those things. Let's coordinate a little better and make it happen. You hit it right on. I keep saying, if you know, what's your biggest wish? Well, I've got a lot of wishes on housing and on transit and stuff. But if we could get a detox facility, an anti-addiction facility in this community, to try and most people aren't successful the first time they'd like to come off whatever their drug of choice is, and will fail a couple of times, and maybe years in between those failures, but they will. And so the fact that we're begging for open beds at a London facility or a facility far away doesn't help our community. And as the mayor of that community, I'd say we need to face it. If we got the problem, we should also have the solution.
Okay, so how do we make that happen? How do we get a detox facility inside St. Thomas? Is it a municipal issue? Is it a provincial issue?
Well, to a degree, all health stuff is provincial, right? It's funded by the province. So that's not to say it can't be delivered. We know the great people at CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association, are doing a lot of good for all of that. And now they're coming together with Addictions Ontario. So now it's kind of one group, because sometimes there is no defining line between a mental health issue or an addiction issue or even a housing issue.
It could be concurrent.
Oh, we could have all of it. One causes the other. Do I have an addiction problem because I had a mental health problem? Maybe I was depressed, I was bipolar, whatever it might be. Or was I this and then I became addicted? Look, so that group, and now with their joining with Addictions Ontario, I think we'll see a lot more straightforward look at the solution rather than just the covering. The bandage.
Okay. And is it also possible to actually fund these addiction sites privately?
Yeah, well, there are a number of private ones. There's a number of great private ones out there.
They are in the city right now.
Oh, not in the city, but near our city. And then there's a number that are very well community run. Teen Challenge Farm would be a great one.
Yes.
This is a group of where, you know, teenage men and women who've gotten into some serious addictions go to cool off and get off. And some are very successful the first time and others aren't. And there are other privately paid for addiction centers out there. But sometimes it's a lot like we do with some of our housing. You know, we've got to go find an apartment for someone and pay for it. Well, if the only addiction spot open is someplace in Muskoka, we may have to take that spot if we got somebody willing right now to come off, right?
Man, he speaks pretty good. I like this. He is, you know what? I want to be a polished politician like him and say you give the great answers. I like that. So how do we start the process to make detox a reality for a program?
Well, I started to talk to the executive director at the CMHA here in town to say, you know, Dan, this is really what I'm looking at. I mean, I see this as the mayor. I'm seeing this as the issue. I talked to Chris Harridge, the police chief, and we have a lot of interaction with mental health at the police force too. Yes, this would be something that would really work well for us. Now, we have other groups in town that do peer support. For mental health, peer support for drugs too.
But can't you say, like, I'm just, you know, you've watched other podcasts when down in the States when someone signs something to do an executive order, can't you go in there to our city council and say, this is the agenda this month. I want unanimously our councilman and the mayor, everyone in favor of a detox. I'm sure you can squeeze whatever udder it is. For the, hey, here's a little bit of federal cash as an udder, and then here's a little bit of provincial.
If indeed it was that easy, yes,
you just can't go in there and say, here's the mallet from the thing.
Yes,
all rise.
So hold on. So how much power does the mayor have?
The power of convincing. I'm one of 9 council members.
Okay.
Now
it goes to a vote.
I think I'm pretty convincing, but it is a matter of a vote of majority.
So if they'll say we want a detox program system, you can say, all rise, we want 200,000 to go towards that. Is that how it works?
Wait, hold on to that, because we all said we want it.
Yeah.
because the question is, there's a pool of money that we collect from the people who own the houses in this community called taxes.
Yes.
And we have to decide, and we spend every dime because municipalities can't run a deficit.
Correct.
So what we take in, we actually spend every year, and we can't spend a dime more.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second, somebody just came up with a new idea worth 2.5 million.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, so you tell me what bus you don't want to run, or tell me what affordable housing we're throwing people out of, or what else, what road doesn't get paved. I mean, it's all a matter of we need to do all of this stuff.
I know.
Okay, now.
So why don't you run a bingo?
So that, well, and it is part of that community piece, but the other piece is also it's a health issue. And we have to be careful. In Canada, we have different things that our constitution gives to different levels of government. And health delivery is a provincial issue. Now, this provincial government's starting to listen pretty well to mental health issues. They put a bunch more money into mental health issues this year. They gave us enough money for a ride-along mental health officer with our police force, which has saved us a pile of policing money.
Solid.
Correct.
Right?
Amazing.
So we need them, and trust me, I have some friends on that side of the table. We're talking to them about how can you do the health unit. Health spending could be less if you give us this. I know that in speaking with Mayor Holder over in London just this week, he's trying to do the same thing. He's got a downtown crisis of drugs and mental health, and he's trying to put together a team that deals with that, and he's asking the province for some of the money to do it. The Mayor of St. Thomas will do the same thing.
So if you tell our viewers, and I'm going to call you sheep for a minute. I can, not these two. If you tell our sheep and you get a pile of people together, isn't that a movement that would support your cause?
Well, of course it would be, but I mean, look, there's nobody out there saying, hey, don't help the addicted, don't help the mental health. I haven't run into anybody yet who's telling me don't help them, right?
But there's a
million keyboard warriors will tell me how I can help them differently.
Yeah.
Right? And truly, and then I have to sort that out through what could pass council, what council could find the money for, and is there other levels of government we could count on helping us? It's not an overnight. It's a whole lot quicker at this position than it was in my federal position. And we should talk about it. And the louder we talk about it on things like this, the more likely it is to be talked about on Main Street so that we actually can do it. But we've had some great groups like the tattoo thing for mental health.
Yes.
I mean, look at what they were able to do.
Yes.
Look at the sleepless.
phenomenal.
The sleepless in our city for homelessness.
Yeah.
Some $37,000 raised.
Correct.
Our community is an active community. We just need to do that. We need to be the people that drive that. And if you're sitting around watching, saying, "Oh, way to go," yeah, get in your warm clothes and come out next year, right?
I'll join you in that one.
A semicolon. Come on out and at
Do
least
something
start
about
doing
it.
something, right?
Correct.
Proud of your community.
And exactly what you were saying before,
Solid.
people may not realize they could do something, but they do have the power of persuasion.
Oh, easily.
You can
and you know
persuade
what?
city
I'm
council.
going to listen to the person that's picking up needles beside me a whole lot more than I'm going to listen to the keyboard when I get home saying, there was needles downtown.
Yeah.
Right? So you want to help, come on out and volunteer.
Okay.
We're doing, we're cleaning up the community on May 12th because it's litter pickup day.
Is it?
And I see you out there with your own little tongs and your trash bags and helping us out. I'm going to listen to what you had to say. If I get home and somebody says, yeah, and I was just through Pinnifer Park and it was really dirty. Okay, thanks.
What'd you do about it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Get it together. Help
Get
us
it
out.
together.
Mom always said, I use this line way too much. Volunteering in a community is the price you pay for living there. Right? Hey, all you people that live in St. Thomas.
Hey, you people.
You know what the price is for living in St. Thomas?
Exactly.
Come on out and help somebody. Join the Kinsmen. Join the downtown cleanup. Work on needle pickup. Work on graffiti removal. Whatever it is you think you want to do or you can do, give 5 minutes, give a day, give 2 weeks, right?
Or report a wrongdoing. You don't have to
Sure.
help. If you see a wrongdoing, report it.
Yeah.
It's not being a rat. You love your city.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Good on.
Correct. At the end of the day, if you guys want something done,
I got to have your help. I'll help. I mean, I'll go do it too.
Yeah.
But I've been, 30 years in this community doing exactly that. And I think
Absolutely.
that's part of why I'm where I am.
Absolutely.
Right? Because,
Absolutely.
hey, wasn't he the guy that did the comedy that night?
yeah,
Right?
because I had no clue.
Right.
Me and you were doing inner city work,
right.
and
Yep.
I had no clue you're an MP.
Yep.
I had no clue you're a politician. I knew we were doing inner city stuff to help the
But
inner
that's
city.
about serving.
Yeah.
And you two are doing the same. Look, we can serve the people, right? And you know what? We get rewarded. I tell you, I got a better community. I've got a couple great businesses in this community that do very, very well because I'm in a successful community. Fantastic. Right? My reward, St. Thomas. I can smile about it.
So shut up and do something
Yeah.
about it, man. Don't just sit behind the computer
Come on,
and
these
complain,
are,
man.
where's the hard questions for today?
Oh, okay. We got a million here. Okay, you know what? Okay, I forgot who it was. Was it Sean? Sean's like, when's the bus coming?
Yeah,
He wants
okay.
to go to London.
Great. Okay, two different bus stories.
Okay.
One is
Okay.
making the transit in St. Thomas better.
Okay.
Okay. And that one, what the province has already said, yes, you can. Here's your money.
Okay.
And so we've started to design what the bus routes will now look like. It's
Yeah.
some really neat shit, really neat stuff. But the federal government still has to participate on that one, or we can't do all we want to do.
Okay.
Okay. We expect to hear their money. I don't need to hear from them, but they'll want a big check presentation.
Yeah.
That'll be fantastic. And that will help us with the 7-day-a-week, all day long busing.
Okay.
Now all day long might be 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night, but it's still
Okay.
better than what we're doing.
Okay.
And it will be really neat. We've got a really neat program. We showed it off last Monday night at council, where during the day you've got, bus routes. Talbot to the mall and back is one route, just all day long. 2 buses doing that. Every 15 minutes a bus is going to pass you on Talbot Street, go to the mall and back. And then there's some routes north of Talbot, some routes south of Talbot for the busier times of day. But in the non-busy times of day, it's demand bus. I'm at the corner of,
Demand bus?
yeah.
Man bus.
Is this
Demand
new?
bus. Yeah, this will be new. This is
Let
what
him
we
It's
will
got
be doing.
Uber buses?
Let him explain.
Yeah,
Right
and
on.
Let him explain.
so we have both the paratransit routes and the paratransit buses go around and help people pick them up right at their house and take them where they need to go. We have to have that. And we'll have the other buses doing the same thing, picking you up at a stop closest to your house because you've told us you're there, and taking you to where another route is in service, like the Talbot route, or
Yeah.
taking you to where you need to go. So
Wow.
our demand bus system, it's a lot less than setting buses running around all the time.
Wow.
We're going to lose some of what we have.
Yeah.
I can't promise the world to everybody. We're going to have some of those routes, even on our busier times, are going to run once an hour instead of once every half hour. But you'll know when they are, so
Correct.
it makes our city
And it'll
better.
be on demand too.
And then it turns into on demand and perfect.
No empty buses.
We hope not, because
Okay.
right now, transit, that type of transit,
Yeah.
inside your city transit, the fares pay for about under 10% of the total cost of transit.
Oh, no doubt.
The other 90% is everybody else.
Correct.
So the more people you can put in those seats more often, the better off it is for your community.
Correct.
You're never going to get to 100%, but
Correct.
we're willing to do that.
Okay.
Now the regional transit. But the opposite is also true. About 4,000 people come from London every day to work, to St. Thomas. And about 4,000 people go the other way.
4,000.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
we should, Mayor Holder and I have discussed standing in Glenworth and making people trade jobs. Because it just would make sense,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
And it certainly, and if we could get a bus doing it, maybe
Correct.
some of those cars are even off the road too, right? But I laugh about it, but it's true. People
Yeah.
get to make the choice of where they work and what they're trained at, and some people work at the university in London because we don't have one here. Okay, give you that. And some people come from London to work here at Format because they don't have that job, so they come here.
Well, our cost of living, was substantially,
It still is.
and it still is. But that being said, for new people getting into the mortgage action and stress tests, and really, if you want a house nowadays, I remember my first house when I was 1994, 95. Collier Homes, 99,000 for a semi.
Yeah.
Those semis are popping off near to $300,000.
Sure, of course they are. But that's the value. It's only the value of what someone will pay for something.
Correct.
I can't tell you what your house must sell for. I think that's a ridiculous concept. If you think any level of government can tell you what your house must sell for, I sure don't want somebody walking in and tell me what I have to sell a burger for.
But you don't think our real estate rates in St. Thomas have been driven up from outside people
Yes,
coming in?
no
Totally.
doubt.
Of course.
Are they inflated? 100%.
But not if someone will pay that price.
That's right. That's
Well,
correct.
when you say inflated, like St. Thomas,
Yes, it's
even though
expensive.
We've always been away from when you're a small town person like
Yeah.
I believe I am, and when Lear closed in 2011, I went to Kitchener-Waterloo.
Right.
I paid double for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Correct.
And I know it's a big center.
You still will pay more there than here.
And I know that, but when I come
catching
home,
up to the high end.
oh no, It's crazy.
Yeah.
Because what's happening, St. Thomas is becoming an elite city.
So
regardless what people want to believe or don't want to believe, a lot of people love and want to move to St. Thomas.
That leads me into my hard-hitting question.
Go ahead.
We're building all these homes, and I run a detail shop, and I'm always strong about I can't charge London prices for detailing.
Okay.
My biggest package is $210. In London, it's $325.
Right.
But our houses are damn near the same price, but I can't charge the same price because St. Thomas mentality. We're not London.
Okay.
But
as a
that being
business
said-
person like you, I still want to be the cheapest but best.
But if I go down Elm Street and I see all the subdivisions and the houses basically right now between 350,000 and 500,000
Right, yep.
are the most active and the most wanted.
Sold before they're built.
That's right. So with that $350,000 home and a $500,000 home, they're paying property taxes.
Yeah.
In their driveway, they've got two $50,000 vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, I'll come right back to it. When you go to when you do your job at City Hall and councilman, I want a detox facility. There is a tax base here in St. Thomas now. That's my point.
Okay, but
houses down Scott Street aren't $90,000 no more. And remember,
No, they're
Scott
not.
Street was a stigma of cheap housing.
But a lot, there's some beautiful homes now. People have fixed them up. And they're
That's right,
fantastic.
but they're also triple the price.
Okay.
So where the taxes go up at the same
I
time.
guess it depends whether you're the owner or the buyer, right? Whether that bothers you much. And I get it.
No.
I'd like it to be fair, but if I'm the one selling the house, I want to get the most for it.
What I'm saying, all these new houses coming into town,
Mm-hmm.
that's more tax money to draw from. So if we say
Yes.
detox, boom.
Okay.
We just built 200 houses this year. Say they're $5,000 a piece, or whatever
Right.
whatever you guys piece it out.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Okay, but for every new home we build, we've got to build a road, put some sewers underground, put more expansion at the water treatment plant and the water to get it to
The
those
city
new homes.
pays for all that.
Yeah,
not the builder or in the area.
There are development charges for that to happen, but it's our job to make sure it happens. Then we have to hire more police officers and build another fire station, right? And then we have to have whatever other services, whether it's parks or schools or whatever else to service. So as we grow, we've gone from, in my time here, from about 20,000 to 42,000.
Yeah.
I expect we'll hit 50,000 during this decade. So
believe
great,
so.
another 8,000 people. Let's say that's another 1,000 homes. Just to make it easy, 1,000 homes. It's the new taxes on 1,000 homes. Well, so maybe instead of what London did this year and up your taxes by 4%, because we have growth, we've kept it at a cost of living 2.7% on a tax increase for a homeowner here. Because we do recognize the same thing as you. Some new people are coming, can afford to pay anything. But we've got some seniors in their homes in this community that can't, even though their house is now worth twice what it once was, they're not getting anything out of that till they sell it. So we got to make sure we don't raise their taxes beyond where we throw them out of their home. So we have to look at it on a balanced way.
See, I'm a simple guy.
Me too.
So how does it say, depending on 2.7%,
Yes.
with all this new infrastructure, businesses, buildings, all the permits being built down by Canadian Tire,
Yep.
how do we go up 2.5% in taxes? How does it go up when you got more business, more building, more permits, more buying taxes from Gear Links or whatever facilities?
Do you expect to earn more this year than next year than this year?
I'm not a teacher.
You would
But
have
do
to.
you expect?
You would have to.
I mean,
Correct.
cost of living is there. So if
No,
for
hold
a
on.
city of
Not everyone gets a raise every year.
I'm not saying everybody does.
No.
I'm asking,
Do I
you expect?
Yes, but
Right.
in the real world that
And as a
doesn't
business
happen.
person, I expect to be able to my business to grow each
Correct.
year too.
You would
Right?
have to, because inflation's going up at least
Right.
3%,
So,
right?
If that's okay that I make that as a premise, then let's say the city budget was 50 million last year,
Yeah.
and we built a bunch of new homes, and so now, and so we took in 50 million to pay that 50 million.
Yeah.
So now we built a bunch of new homes, and we have now 51 million. We took in an extra million worth of taxes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're actually a little behind because the wages went up more than $1 million. We had to hire on 4 new police officers, those types of things. So although although we kept taxes at a fairly low number, they really were 4% increase, but
Correct.
then we had some new houses. So that brought it, so we can keep it where it's affordable at something around 2.5. We think, that's, when we talk to the general homeowner, he can kind of live with close to cost of living, something around 2%. No other community near us was able to keep it to the level we did, and that's partly because we're growing. That's why.
Well, yeah.
And that's amazing for the homeowners, even the seniors that can't afford anything
More.
over the 2.5. What do we do for the person that doesn't own a home that actually needs affordable housing?
Great. Well, let's start on that one because that's a big question. We talked about that a lot during the last election, that housing is a crisis in our community. We're at a 0 vacancy rate from a rental apartment.
Correct.
Well, it's timely because tomorrow morning we're having a really big summit of all of our builders, all of our architects, everybody that has anything to do with building, including the hospice, all of the other neighboring communities, about 40 people tomorrow to talk about what can our city do to entice people to come here and develop market rent apartments, apartment buildings.
Market rent.
Well, okay, first of all, what we have to attack is the supply. If we're not going to lower the cost of these apartments till we actually have some.
Yeah.
Right. So we've started now. Patriot Properties is working now on the Alma project. That's 300 units. Oh, in our community, that's a lot. But we're about 1,500 behind on rental units. So we need about 5 more of that to break even and start to deal with the supply. Now, the city has its own stock of housing and affordable housing. We just built that building at 230 Talbot where the
Great
social
job,
services, it is a good building, and if you've seen the apartments in the upstairs,
And how many apartments upstairs?
28 in that one,
Okay.
and a third of them are market rent,
Okay.
a third of them are affordable,
Okay.
and then a third are geared to income, which is extremely affordable.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but we want to do mixed developments like that. We don't want to say this building over here is geared to income and this one
Correct.
over here is rich
Correct.
people only.
Correct.
Right? Let's mix it. Okay, and so we've done that. The back lot to that 230 Talbot will be developed within the next 18 months. The same way we think between 48 and 60 units.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Wow,
So we're
amazing.
putting our own money we're putting your money where our mouth is.
Okay.
But we're also saying we can do this in our community. There is a business plan that works. It can be done, and we can make some of it extremely affordable.
Okay.
Now, you, Mr. Builder, would you please come here and build me some more?
Okay.
What do you give them though for a kickback?
Well,
is there a kickback?
that's what we're talking. It's
Yeah,
not
how
so
do you
much-
entice the
There's
builders?
incentive. There's
Okay.
community improvement plan. All
Okay.
downtown has had this community improvement plan for as long as I can remember. $5,000 an apartment.
Oh yeah.
Right, so if you want to remodel 3 apartments, you're going to get that much off your taxes. You're not getting the cash, but you're going to not have,
get you.
right? Okay, but
Okay.
that's the incentive.
Okay.
We're now widening that out across town.
Okay.
To say, if you build apartments, we're going to help you with this. We're going to do it this way. You mentioned the development charges before. The delivery of water, sewer, and electricity to each home costs a pretty good penny to do, and each of the builders have to pay that amount.
Correct.
Now, we're going to work on multi-unit buildings, what we hope to put forward. If you want to build a large apartment building, we're not going to charge you the development charges until you start collecting rent. It's a big, millions of dollars worth of development charges.
Wow.
So if you can get a cash flow going
Okay.
before, and so all
Cut
we're doing,
red tape, right?
sure, and
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're
yeah.
not losing out on anything. We're just
Yeah.
not getting it early.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, and
But if
that's
that's an
fair.
incentive
That's
for
a
you
fair,
to build
yeah.
a 300-unit apartment
That's
building
a
for
huge
me.
incentive.
Okay, so these are the types of incentives we're talking about tomorrow. The Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation is there telling us what is legal, what isn't, what
Okay.
cities can offer, how we can work with our neighboring communities.
Okay.
Right? St. Thomas is built pretty much to the fence line in the south and in the east
Yeah.
and in the north.
Yeah.
We've got some growth going to happen in the west. We're going to open up a new growth area out there. But we need to have the cooperation of our neighboring communities also building. How is it St. Thomas just ends there? And we bring water and everything to it, but there's nothing on the other side of the
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah.
There's nobody building over there. Let's work together. And that's part of what else we're looking at. So it's timely. We've been calling it a housing crisis.
Okay.
Been working hard to try and solve it.
Yeah.
It'll be 5 years in the solution because it was 2 decades in the making. We went a full decade and a half of not building an apartment in this community.
No,
Okay.
And that's stupid. Look at why we got that.
hey,
Okay. And speaking of builders, what's happening with Elma College?
Well, the Patriot property is under construction.
It is.
It's
okay.
under construction.
Beautiful.
He's building, and that's
Finally.
300 units.
What was the holdback?
Well, it had been designated a heritage site while the
Okay.
building was still standing.
Yes.
People were hoping it's a beautiful place, and people went to school there, and their moms went to school there, and I get the sentimentality. But after the place burned, the heritage was still in place, and so you couldn't go there and do what the beautiful land required. It's going to be a lovely place to have an apartment, and I'm not betting they're cheap.
I live 2 doors down from that.
Right? So I would bet. So we had to move the heritage designation to a different thing. It's now
Okay.
slightly less. It's an imprint of the old building. The amphitheater will still be there. We've made it so that he can build, so that a builder can make some money building apartment buildings
Okay.
on that site, and they're under construction.
Okay. Okay.
So there's another thing that I preluded earlier. Crisis. Now, we all have just educate me on St. Thomas passed a climate crisis
Sure.
through council, and it didn't go, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't pass the first time, correct?
No, we deferred it so we could talk about it.
Okay, so explain to me and our viewers, and mainly me, because it drives my guts. What
Okay.
is the climate crisis that we have in St. Thomas?
Well, it's more that's what it was called. But let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
You want dirty air? You want dirty water? Would you
We
like
don't-
some polluted land?
we don't have
No.
that
None of
problem.
us want any of that.
We don't
And
have that problem.
But that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
We're talking about treating our city and the part of the planet that is in our city in a way we would want it to be treated. That we do clean up the brown fields and the old crappy railway lands and the old factories that leaked oil into the ground, and we do some of that cleanup. And that's a crisis. We can't build apartments on those sites because we need to clean them up. So we're saying as a community, let's work on it. Let's work on making this community better.
Okay.
And everything we do, let's ask, are we doing harm or help to our planet?
Okay.
And so this last week, we needed to buy a new vehicle for the bylaw control officer to drive around and give parking tests.
Drive me nuts on this one.
Okay, well let me
Yeah.
tell you,
All right.
it's cheaper that it's an electric car than a gas car. Cheaper.
But the imprint on the environment is bigger by producing that electric car.
Not for what we're doing. The driving it in our community is not. It's
But
cleaner.
producing that car weighed more CO2 than a fossil fuel burning
All
car.
right. If the car's already made, and I'm getting it, and I can do better
Yeah.
for the environment in St. Thomas by doing it, let's do it. Look, we know that there's some electric Zambonis that we could probably put in our rinks, right? Okay, let's at least look at them. When they start to be equal, when they start to be no harm or no foul, then let's do it. There's no electric snowplow truck right now. There just isn't one available, so we're not likely to go there. But should we do things like plant more trees?
We always do. But we're talking
No,
about
we
a
didn't
crisis.
always do that.
The beginning of this show, which has
Right.
been a hard hitter for me, we have a needle crisis. That
Yep.
is an actual day-to-day thing where you and I, Joe, and
Yep.
Malachi, we're not going to fix our environment in our lifetime. The
So we
environment.
should do nothing.
No.
Well, that's what you're saying.
No,
because I wanna make
I'm not
sure.
saying. No. The thing is, hey, everyone go buy an electric car if they want.
If they want.
That's right. The climate crisis in our town. We recycle. We put our garbage out.
Right.
We
Couldn't we do better?
reduce, reuse, do everything. But I'm going to tell you, right next to that cigarette butt, there's
Right.
needles. That's a crisis.
Okay. And
That's
I
an
do not disagree with you.
immediate crisis that needs to be looked after. So now, me, our fans, or me, or whatever, instead of whatever that, I'm just putting a number on the car. It's not Joe stapling it. So a $50,000 car.
Right.
That could be one person, 40 hours a week, maybe one and a
Could be,
half.
but we
people
have to
pay
own that
bills.
car.
You already got a bylaw officer car.
No, it needs to be replaced. So should we replace it with something not or not?
If we feel like we're the cookie cutter society we are, and if we say we're climate crisis approved, we need the electric car.
No, we don't need it. We just said, let's look at things through a climate lens.
Okay.
So if we need to go buy a car or go buy a pickup truck, can we buy one that either uses less gas or is electric? Sure, let's look at it. If it works out to be equitable or equal, that's
So
fine.
that's our climate crisis.
Okay, no, but let me finish this, because I bet you can sit and watch TV, can't watch any sports anymore this week because
No,
they
I
cut
saw.
them all off,
Yeah.
right? And eat a snack at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I got to tell you, as your local mayor, I can also think about needle crisis, housing crisis, and environment crisis at the same time.
That's more relevant than the climate's changing in
I
front of
think
us.
we can do them all.
Okay.
Well,
I can multitask. I've
Hey,
taught
if
myself
you
how
could
to
do
it.
them all,
Right? Right.
that's the whole
And
point.
I don't-
you're saying you do them all, but then there's one of them that's not even being touched. It's being talked about.
What?
the needle crisis you're talking
We
about.
can we can hand them out like it's Smarties, but at the end of the day,
Well, I already told
we
you.
haven't
I already
designated.
told you what we're doing on that, and I'm sorry, but I saw me out there picking up needles.
But yeah, that's in the beginning.
No, still will if they're.
Why are
if
we
Randy
having a
can't
mayor that we're paying a salary to go pick up something that's
'Cause
band-aiding?
I also-
that's band-aiding.
even if you work for someone else, I want you to volunteer.
That's
and as the
band-aiding.
mayor, I want to volunteer too.
That's completely band-aiding it.
I'm just saying it can be done. We can multitask. You know, I'm tired of some of the keyboard warriors who want to tell me how bad you're doing on just this. Well, okay, but how about this, this, and this? Oh, we're not talking about that right now, right? Yeah, we can do all of these things. We have some great minds and some great volunteers and some great help in our community, and we can do both housing crisis and look at what we're doing by creating a shelter and by creating affordable housing at the same time as we're looking at mental health and addiction problems. We can do both. I don't need to stop doing one to do the other.
No.
And we don't need to stop looking at mental health and addictions in order to get new buses in this community. We can do that.
But
at
you're
the
getting a
same
new
time.
vehicle.
Yeah, and I don't need to stop looking at transit to also look at
Those are very
things
important.
in a climate lens. And let's not make the world any dirtier than we have to, so that's one of them.
So
Is
You know
it the most important? No. Is it the least important? No.
No.
At the time, we can look at all of them. We can multitask and do more than one thing. And that, that's all I'm saying. Is
I guess-
I'm not disagreeing with you.
I guess what I'm getting from what you're saying is that the city was several steps behind, and in order for us to catch up, we gotta combine a lot of things and do
I
them
saw an
together.
opportunity. Our council all started to talk about this at the same time, and
Yeah.
I may have been a different place to begin with, but I wanted to defer it so we could talk about it and see what it means to
Yeah.
us. And when it comes down to it being somewhat symbolic to say it, what it said to me was, I want the air, the water, and the land to be cleaner in my community. Wow, geez, I'm proud to be the mayor of a community that wants that. We go pick up litter even once a year. That's helping towards that.
Yeah.
So get the feedback out there, because it's great to have this forum to actually hear from people. Hey, why don't
Right.
we do A? So
Yeah,
what
Suzanne's
else you
even
got?
saying just do a segment alone just to answer questions.
no, it's great.
That's what she's saying, but man, okay. See,
There's a ton, and it's hard. Like what I see on there, Joe, a lot, and I'm not going to say names.
Right.
It's a common theme that people are saying that since the housing market is gone up, like we've seen all around us,
Everywhere.
and now landlords have jumped on it too, and I've seen quite an increase in over 1 year, 2 year lapse.
Yep.
Is there any way that people went into apartments because they couldn't afford a home?
Right.
Now it's the other way around.
it is.
No, it's starting to be. And look, I'll say this two ways. Remember those people. Remember those landlords that treated you like crap when there wasn't many apartments to look for. Because we're in the city trying to fix the problem by adding more apartments. The minute we get the capacity up, the number of apartments up, and the vacancy rate to have some flexibility to it, you remember those landlords that treated you like crap, right? Because you can go live somewhere else. Today, I'm sorry, you are stuck. This community has zero vacancy, and we're working our best to increase apartments as fast as we possibly can. We approved a couple more 3-story apartment buildings just the other night, or at least the start to them. But these things take a year, 18 months to build.
Correct.
We didn't do this for too long. We had, and I won't blame the council, I really won't, but somebody let the ball go where we just didn't try to attract anything but home builders in our community.
Yeah.
So we have the world's best home builders. I'll give you that. They do. I mean, I won't start naming groups or I'll miss one of them. But they do a fantastic job. And we can't do anything to wipe the smiles off their faces. They're doing okay.
Yeah.
So we've asked them for a little bit of help. Would you help us attract people who do what you don't do? who
Yeah.
build apartment buildings, or would you do some of your own? And so each of the developments now will have some stacked townhouses, some less spacious houses, some 3-story walk-up apartments, and we'll start to get the number back. But until we have supply, more supply of market rent apartments, we won't have more supply of more affordable apartments. And then until we have that, we won't have any more enough supply of geared income apartments. There's some 500 people on the housing list for the community of St. Thomas.
Wow.
Now, some of them have been there for years, and some of them is, well, we better put our name in just in case we ever need a house. I get that. Some are in far greater need. But housing lists have some real priorities as to how they should be filled. I mean, I asked the question the other night and said, okay, so if I've got an absolute homeless person at my shelter, are they number one on my housing list? No. They haven't been there long. Right? I said, well, that's ridiculous. We can't call somebody who doesn't have a place to live not the highest priority.
Yeah.
So we have to put our house in order too, to make it a pun. We need to get our job done. And those affordable housing that St. Thomas does have need to go to the people that need it the most.
Okay.
But here's another dilemma.
What's the dilemma?
Well, we've got people who actually went into affordable housing because they needed it. They've done a great job of finding new jobs and moving up and being better with life. And guess
But
what?
they're still in the house.
They can't find another place. We have zero vacancy.
Yeah.
So and we can't turf them onto the street. So we're working our best to try and make this a better place. So,
Yeah.
right. So we'll keep building things like on Alma College, the Patriot properties there, and some of the other places in town to try and get as much as we can.
Okay.
Funny enough, we're growing faster than you and I ever thought this community would grow.
No.
Right. And so.
You get
know,
big city problems when you start growing as a little city. You get
yeah,
big city
and you
problems.
know what? You
Right.
get big city smiles too.
Okay.
Look, we got 42,000 people that have fun, that work, play, live here in St. Thomas. Yes, it's not the same old sleepy little place.
Well, 42 is not even really a real number when you get Central Elgin and Port
If you add
Stanley.
it all.
Geez, we're pulling in from
And as I
100,000.
keep saying to Mayor Holder in London, you know, he's got a bedroom community there for us where so people can go to sleep and then come back to St. Thomas. So, you know, I tease him a lot. And the opposite is also true.
Okay,
right?
okay.
Great.
Okay, and you were talking about there's 4,000 people that actually work outside of the city, and 4,000
Yeah.
from London that come inside
Yeah.
St. Thomas, right? So, you know, I work in the downtown core, and I notice it's picking up. I notice a lot of traffic happening in the downtown core, but what can we do to actually even advance that a lot faster than what's
Look,
happening
you know,
right
part
now?
of it is this. You know, we have a real lack of awareness in our community. It's hard. Our newspaper gets to a few people.
Okay.
Our radio station gets to a pretty good group of people too, but not all. I live in the north part of St. Thomas.
Yeah.
And I have neighbors who get up every morning, drive to London, come home at night, and go to their house. I had to introduce myself as the mayor. No, really, I live next to the mayor.
They had no clue.
They had no clue.
Yeah.
Their idea of St. Thomas is where they live. And
Okay.
we need to get them involved into things like Iron Horse Festival
Okay.
or Nostalgia Days when downtown looks like it did last July. We've got to get them involved in being volunteers and committed helpers in this community. They've chosen St. Thomas. They just don't know yet the mayor's coming after them.
So how do we make events like this, you know, Iron Horse and all these other events, like top notch, like how we used to be? How do we do it?
Oh,
Like,
I think they're as good as they used to be too. But we remember them when we're younger, and it was always
You think
know,
so?
I know it might have been alcohol induced. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But look, nothing stays the same. Look,
Yeah.
at I played hockey outdoors, and I
Yeah.
look back at that romantically now.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody would do it today.
Okay.
Right? I mean, you know, who wants an outdoor? It was 40 below some days playing outdoors, but we romanticize about how great it
Yeah.
was. We need to do a lot more of this and a lot more of what we do with Mayor's Update, what we do with other things, with other media sources in town, to let people know what is going on. Arts Crawl.
Yes.
Just last weekend, 2 weekends ago.
Correct.
Phenomenal and packed, and people were everywhere. And if you really looked, a lot of them weren't from here. Well, that's a desire to come to St. Thomas. But then there would be the guy who mostly just hangs out at Legends and says, "What's all this crap with arts?" right? And
Yeah.
you know, we're allowed all those opinions. We
And
can
that's
have
cool,
all of them.
right?
You saw last year what we did when the Raptors made the playoffs.
Yes, absolutely.
And in 48 hours, we put
Yeah, that was
over
cool.
1,000 people on Moore Street.
You did.
People said, not possible, you can't do that. And I said, well, I'm the mayor.
Because right there,
But-
that's why I say you put your resources to it, just like,
Yep.
and I hate to tie you back into it, I want a detox. I want, if you put your resources to it, we can watch a sporting event.
We can do them all. We can do both. One takes a little longer because it maybe needs a construction, or I mean, do you want me to throw 8 people out of apartments right now to make this? Look, we got to make it work, and we won't run it. The city can't run it.
Okay.
And when it turned out that my FM, established media, Century Sound said, hey, let's do this Raptors thing. They came to Joe and said, hey, you want to help me? I said, sure, I'm a volunteer. Let's go. I'm not really even a big basketball fan, but why not? Well, and sure enough, I'm one of the guys out there putting up the screen at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to make sure it's all going to be up.
Yeah.
Right? But when it got
And that's very commendable.
it was somebody, but when it was my FM's event and it couldn't happen, we're having trouble with it. I said, well, let's make it a city event, because then I don't have to go ask for insurance. We're already insured, right? It's a lot of the times we put a lot of roadblocks in the way of the special events in this community, and rightfully so. We want to make sure that they have the wherewithal to pay a bill if they have to, or if someone does hurt themselves. But we just stepped up and said, let's make this a city event and see how it works. So it worked.
Which ties into what you were saying before. Instead of sitting at home trying to say you're doing everything wrong, create
Come
something,
on out.
bring it to you,
Yeah.
and then you're more likely to listen to the person that's actually right there doing,
Hey,
doing
the person that helped me put up that 500-pound screen that night
Yeah.
is a new friend, right? And so, and then when it was raining 2 days later and we had to move it indoors over at
Yeah.
Memorial, who's coming to help? And I found community buddies, and it was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I won't say we didn't take a little accolades. We did some good work, and it was incredible. I saw high school students that night on Moore Street came up to me and said, "You're the mayor, right?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing like this ever happened in my community.
Cool. No, I think
And
it's
I went,
great. I think
wow.
it's great when you put your mind to it and put something together. Like I ran
And
a
it
car
sure
show.
wasn't me.
I run a car show
Yep.
at Lau Cook. Been there 93 years.
Yes.
That's a staple in this community.
Yep.
Lau Cook Service Center. In 3 weeks, I made a car show, and it was one of the bigger ones, other than the one downtown.
Yep.
That I had no help because we're a small business. Once you put your mind to something, you can do it. That's why I keep bringing you back, and I'm not trying to ground you,
Right.
and you're smooth.
And we won't stop. We won't stop trying
I
to
just
do what
really
you say.
think a hot spot right now in this, in with the biggest 3 things in St. Thomas, and just as my opinion, mental health, drug use, homeless,
Yeah. Oh,
and then
I gotta
affordable
put-
housing. 4.
Well, it's all housing. So homelessness and housing I call one thing.
But I think
I put
stopping the
transit
needles
in there- I
being
put
handed out
transit
for
in
free
there. Okay.
stops the end result.
And
I don't disagree with you.
And why do you put transit within that?
Because part
mix?
of what the solution to some of those others are
Yeah.
is great jobs.
Correct.
Right? The economy being better. We currently have probably, you could tell me, also, we probably have about 1,000 to 1,500 jobs available in our community today that can't be filled.
Can be filled. That's
right?
the same
Some,
issue we had
you know,
last year.
some aren't great
Oh,
jobs.
don't get me started on that.
Okay.
No.
But we also have a great number of people
Yeah.
who are still on social assistance.
Correct. That
we have-
is very true.
So
Was
we
from
need to
last
make
year.
the barriers go away for people to be able to go to work too.
Yeah.
Transit is, that's why I add transit to that bunch, because transit is one of those things.
Okay.
Hey, you can walk anywhere in this community on any given day.
Okay.
But there are certainly days I don't want to walk to the hospital from my house and back. I just don't want.
So these
even if
fif-
there was a good job.
There's 1,500 jobs because this is the same
I think
issue we
that's
had.
about right.
Yeah, it's the same, close to the same number we had about last year when the
Yeah.
mayor race was happening. Like, why do you think that is? Is it people just refuse to work?
Well, we don't. There's elements of training they need. There's a lot of little barriers.
Okay.
But you know, sorry, I know you and you know me.
Yeah.
Personal responsibility is I couldn't stay unemployed 15 seconds because I'd go find something else to do.
Correct.
But there are other people that
Correct.
maybe needed to be guided to that and helped through that. I'm okay with that. I've spent a lot of time as the president of the Youth Employment Counseling Center way back when in this community, because I found if you got kids a job, they never quit working ever again.
No, because they're
Right.
getting paid.
They got
man.
money in their
They're
pocket,
getting paid,
right?
man.
But in the other sense, once you get on assistance, you never get off either.
Well, let's make that change. If that's the case, I don't think either of what we just said is absolutely true.
Yeah.
But let's do it. And I'm asking the businesses in this community to help me with that. If you're a
How
business,
can the businesses help?
well, many of them are looking for better workers or workers
Okay.
than what they have. So instead of saying, oh, I'm unemployed in this community, don't help me at all, how about, hey, could you give me 4 or 5 people and I'll try and train them on what I do, and I have to keep one of them at the end of the 90 days. Right?
Okay.
The employment
Sure.
services do a good job downtown.
Well, and they can.
Yeah.
Employment services, both ends, do a great
Yeah.
job, but we've got to, even if it's one-on-one, if it's only 1,100, 1,500 jobs that are going lacking right now in our community,
Yeah.
we have enough people that over a year, right, that would be, we could break it down and say, okay, you 10, now you,
Wow.
now you.
So,
Why not?
So let's say somebody is at home right now, unemployed, right?
Right.
You know, 20s, 30s, whatever, and they've been unemployed for the last couple of years, right? They want to jump into that workforce, but they're afraid. They're not skilled. They don't have the skills. They
Right.
don't have the confidence.
Well,
What do you do?
The employment services
Okay.
offers training for a lot of that stuff. Whether it's we've done it from the beginning. Life skills training, how to get up in the morning, how to write a resume, how to set your alarm clock, what to wear to work. We'll even get you work boots. Right? Those types of things do currently occur, but sometimes when your self-esteem is damaged, you're not working and you're
Yeah.
at home, you
Yeah.
don't know that, and you don't go look for it. So things like this certainly help people say, let's go do it. Right? Look, and I'm a first employer for a number of people in this community with the Wendy's. I don't want to be their last employer. I want to be their first employer. We make some pretty good employees over time. But even we right now would hire 2 or 3 more full-time people if they walked in. And
I got the
that's
same
crazy.
problem.
Right.
I got the
It's-
same problem.
Right. And that's crazy right now. It's
Yeah.
just that we are at about as boom a time, not counting the new coronavirus crisis.
Yeah.
We're at about as boom a time as we've seen since the last recession, when we really tanked. St. Thomas is doing about as well as it could. How is it we can't put everybody back to work? We've got Maple Leaf Foods about to open at Highbury in the 401. 1,500 new workers. We're the closest people to that factory. There's no residents in London closer to that factory.
Yeah.
Are we ready to be able to share that many people with a factory out there? We've got Element 5 under construction now in our industrial park. Probably going to be 35, 40 people, but they're going to want them. They didn't come here and pick this
There ain't much of a
community.
talent pool because, and I'll
Then
say,
let's make it.
You know what? I'll say it. I'll call black
creative.
as black, white as white.
Yeah.
I need to hire at my business, and when I make calls to go to certain functions in town, and I'm going to tell you, you get some really talented ones. When I say that, look between the lines.
Right.
These are people that are lifetime on the system, e-bikes, e-scooters, and that's my hard hitting at the end.
We'll
What
get
you
that
think
one.
about that?
Yep.
We'll get there. But when I get to interview these people, first thing I say to them, you got a license? No. You live at home? Yeah. They're in their late 20s. It's not about, I gotta say this right. The talent
You're
pool.
being way too politically correct.
I know. Well, that's all respect to you.
It's respect.
So
I
listen,
get it.
minimum wage draws a certain amount of
Okay,
talent. Okay,
but-
when you got a certain amount of talent, and I'm going to tell you, that's why I say mental illness, drug addiction, because everyone that goes through certain facilities in town, because listen, I've got a new employee right now. I'm going to get $4,000 through the program, paced out to me to hire that individual.
Right. And you hope they turn.
And
your
I'm
training
like
is
this,
good,
my
right?
God, because training costs so much bloody money.
Yeah.
And I will give them all the time they have. I'm sorry, in the dumper. What this draws from is people that are on, and you get the most money because people are on assistance. You get them off assistance because you're going to give the employer a bunch of money to get them off. But I'm going to tell you, when you get systemized, the
There is
problem
some
is
of that.
you got to get them off systemized.
Right. But there is some of that.
And
We
I
realize
get your
that.
struggle because that's
Yeah.
so hard. Because as a small business owner, I'm an owner, I'm a manager. When it went from 1160 to 14, right away I had to put
Thank you.
prices up.
I know what I had to do.
Yeah.
Right. That's not free. I mean, that was the government saying, I'm now going to spend more money.
Everybody
Right.
wanted more
So,
money,
I
but
get
someone's got to pay for it.
Right.
Now, is there
But-
systems to help people come off the system?
Yes, there is, and there clearly is. Can they be better? Sure, they can.
Yeah.
We're not perfect yet, but
Yeah.
there is some at both the employment services and even through our own social assistance office. Lots of ways to stop the cycle that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
But it still does take that personal responsibility of
Correct.
I'm prouder to work
Yeah.
than not to work for fairly similar money.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's good, but that we do take
That's
care
an
of
analogy.
society.
Yeah. Why do I
Right?
go to work when I'm making 1,100? I know
Because I
DSB
feel
or whatever.
better going to work.
Because-
Because I like going
That's
to work.
right.
I
You-
like
you got- you
accomplishing.
got
Us three
pride
guys
inside
here
of you.
get up every day and do the grind. I've never been unemployed. I lost my job at Lear,
Yeah.
but the very
How many
next day,
days?
1 day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I say it this way: I never found a job, the next job, anywhere but at the job I was at. Right? And so if you're employed, you have the opportunity to for someone to discover that you're doing a good job and maybe
Correct.
hire you at a better job.
Correct.
We've got skilled trades, and I'm not talking low wages. We're
Yeah.
talking skilled trades in this
Correct.
community that are looking for entry level workers.
We need more skilled trade.
yeah.
Our
And we're
school
willing to train
system-
them all.
Okay, here, listen. I gotta ask a hard-hitting question.
Go for it.
You know what my number one pet peeve, other than needles lately? E-bikes
E-bikes.
Okay.
and e-scooters. I gotta ask Joe Preston what
Okay.
he thinks, because he's not on his platform. You've probably heard before what I think a person that drives an e-bike. Now we're gonna have e-scooters running rampant, right?
Well, we already have them. I mean, let's not
Okay,
be.
we have
let's not-
e-bikes, but the e-scooters are now.
Okay, well,
Okay.
what is there truly a difference? I get it.
Well, no,
it's
there's-
another fairly cheap way to get around. There are people who can't afford to buy a house, can't afford to rent an apartment.
Yeah.
Certainly, I know what you did, and I know what I did at 16. I owned my first car at 15.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get my license
Well, most of
after
us-
I got my own car.
Joe, Joe, most of
Well,
us
you can't do
back in
that
the day, Joe, most of us back in the day, it was pride. It was,
Right.
it was. I'm going to be on my own.
Right.
I don't need my mom and dad to do that. I'm going to get a car. Now it's like,
Okay.
don't worry about put your bubble wrap jacket
So,
on.
but part of what we're talking about then is also associated. But look, at getting around our community at a time when their transit system is in much need of being better, and the e-scooter and e-bike situation is no more than bicycles or anything else. Look, I get it, and the traffic laws are enforceable for all of them too, right?
Okay, that's fine. So my motorcycle that I can't currently insure because it's so outrageous that I have to wear a DOT helmet. But if I can run wild on an e-bike,
We're now at that point, so let's just wait and see, right?
yeah.
Right? And much like the guy who can't drive his car, catch him.
I just really find that
If we got people who are that bad that they can't follow the rules of the road on an e-bike, then they deserve to be caught doing it too, right?
I just think we're taxing the wrong people that are already spread thin.
Okay, well those people aren't being taxed, right?
That's the problem.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
The root
But
problem.
if I allowed people to ride e-bikes and e-scooters, but that made it so they could get to Format and take the job, or get over to Lyle Cook and take a job, and otherwise they can't because we don't have a decent transit system, I think that's a positive.
Okay, so if you fix
So
the
there's
bus,
an economy piece to it, right? Part of it is the economy. It
Yeah.
really is. We need to find a way for people to get to work and get home from work.
Yeah.
I currently got a boatload of employees that can't take the bus to work. You know why? Because it's not running when they're done work.
Yeah. They
But
could
the
get
sa-
to work,
But the
but
same token, why is that? Is it the Canadian way that we got to worry about everybody? Back in the day when both
I
our
get it.
parents did 10, I walked 10 miles to
Up
school.
school, over broken
Uphill,
glass.
downhill,
Yeah.
whatever it is. Now they shut it down if there's this much snow.
Yeah.
We got to hold everyone's
Have you
hand
noticed that
forever.
you get crotch shooter as you get older? You dislike more things.
No, I like things the way they are.
Right.
I know how I learned the hard way when I didn't obey the rules of the road.
Oh,
I got
What are
punished.
the rules of the house? Right.
Oh yeah, and that's right. That's what and we did,
Yep.
and I did too.
Yep.
I think transitioning till now, it's not a. It's like
Yeah. Look, I agree with you. When we looked at e-bikes and e-scooters, and the province brought that down and said, let's make these legal on the streets, and we could have said no, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the real answer is, let's be like everybody else, but enforce the laws. Okay. We asked the police department, what do you think? And they said, well, they'll have the same rules of the road. Let's see how it goes, right?
Okay, so how's it going?
Well, it's been winter.
Okay.
Well, they still ride. They still got some.
No, well, sometimes it's your only way to work, right? Look, I haven't had a great deal of trouble with driving by. I mean, I drive a pretty big pickup truck, so look out, I suppose. But no, I haven't seen crazy people.
So I guess we gotta get some numbers for these e-bikes,
I did do one thing.
What's that?
I took an wheelchair scooter, electric wheelchair, from Shaw Valley.
Okay.
To Wendy's.
Okay.
And back. With another fellow who is forced to do that every day because that's what he lives in, is an electric chair. And I saw some parts of our city that as the mayor I said, you get to a certain light and you can't push the button because it's too high or it's behind the post or right. No, it is about mobile. When that is the only way you can leave your house.
Yeah.
Right. Then we should make it so that it works too, right? So I'll be challenged. So the bicycle people said, well, we want you to get out on your bike and see what our trails are like, and then what it's like to ride on our roads. And I'm a big guy, and I'm not young.
Yeah.
And I'm scared to death on Burwell Road on my bike. Now as we
Burwell's
well, but now now the soccer park will be in, and I can ride the trails through it rather than along Burwell. There's lots of places. We have a fantastic community where you can escape the roadways and go on another way, right? So that's fantastic, and also good for the cars when I'm doing that, because I got to tell you, I take up more in the bike lane. But I like being out in our community on my bike, and I'm working out so that I can do more of it too. But I really thought that e-bike for the hard hills would be really
well, my boss and I, John, I don't know if you follow us on Buff and Shine Center or whatever. I'm hard on it, but I said to him, in 2020, I think him and I should get e-bikes and we'll break the internet. Because, I always say the same analogy. And if you see an e-scooter guy or person, it's not DOT. 90% of the time.
Well, no, it's a bike helmet, maybe, or it's not a helmet.
Okay, it's just barely on there. They got a cigarette and a tray at Tim Hortons. I don't know how much distracted driving you need to do, but...
well, I have a stepson who was a summer company operator, right, and was a painter, and all he had was an e-bike. But there was times I went to pick him up because he's trying to ride home with a bucket, a pole, a roller, some paint on the back, right? But way to go get a job, way to work, right? So if that's the only way he can get to his job.
You're just too nice. That's why he's a nice guy. I like that. I came up tougher. I like that. How about we do this? Because we got to wrap this thing up.
Yeah.
I think because that thing's turned
shut
off.
Down, so
I think we have a part 2 with him in a couple of weeks.
Anytime.
No
couple weeks.
Anytime.
Take down some of the questions, and you guys work together. Keep that.
Pause. I think that thing's gone.
Yeah. Well, and even if it is, we'll say that. Then let's try and do more of the questions ahead of time, and so we can have them written down, and we'll check them off, and so many of them will be the same. I'm happy to come back anytime. This is the right method for us to talk to the community. You guys are doing a great job of it.
Thank you.
But I'm glad I was able to disagree with you.
That's it. After the show, we're gonna have the UFC in St. Paul. Kidding.
Your wrestler comes out now.
Woo!
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anytime.
And it's a blessing,
hey,
man.
we're not supposed to shake hands. Say we got viruses and everything.
Oh, for real? Okay. You answered every single question. You didn't back down. People's mayor, man.
I forget. If I lie, I forget what I said. But if I tell the truth, it's probably what's in there again. So.
Joe's buying me an e-bike.
There you go, man.
Joe's buying me an e-bike.
St. T right here, man. Real Talks podcast. We got Joe Preston, Nick Simpson, a.k.a.
Buzz, man.
Okay, Malachi Malay. Peace out, y'all. God bless.